Boker Tov. Well, there is a rabbinic principle called Zirizin Makdimin Lemitzvot, that the fastidious are quick to perform a mitzvah, a commandment. And I was requested by an email this morning to record Tazria and Metzora in my quest to complete all the Haftarot for the year and make them available on YouTube. So, without further ado, here we go. This is Kings 2, verses 3, or chapter 7, verses 3 through 20. Ve'arba'a anashim hayu metzoraim petach hasha'ar vayomru ish el re'ehu ma anachnu yoshvim po ad matnu im amarnu navo ha'ir vera'av ba'ir v'ma'atnu sham ve'im yashavnu fo v'ma'atnu ve'ata lechu v'nipla el machane aram im yechayunu nichye ve'im yemitunu v'matnu vayakumu vayakumu vaneshef lavo el machane aram vayavo'u ad ketzei machane aram vehine ein sham ish. Well, every once in a while I might make a mistake too. I am human. I know you might have thought I was some sort of a miracle, completely perfect human being, but I am not. Moving right along, Vadonai Ishmiya et machane aram. Excuse me. Kol rechev, kol sus, kol chayil gadol, vayomru ish el achiv, hine sachar aleinu, melech Yisrael, et malchei hachitim, ve'et malchei Mitzrayim lavo aleinu. Vayakumu, vayanusu, vaneshef, vayazvu et oleihem, ve'et suseihem, ve'et chamoreihem, hamachane kasher hi, vayanusu el nafsham. Vayavo'u hametzoraim ha'ele ad ketzei hamachane. Vayavo'u el ohel echad vayochlu vayishtu vayis'u misham kesef v'zahav uvgadim vayelchu vayatminu vayashuvu vayavo'u el ohel acher vayis'u misham vayelchu vayatminu vayomru ish el re'ehu lochein אנחנו עושים היום הזה יום בשורה הוא ואנחנו מחשים וחיכינו עד אור הבוקר, ומצאנו עוון. ועתה לכו ונבואה ונגידה בית המלך. ויבואו ויקראו אל שוער העיר, ויגידו להם לאמור, באנו אל מחנה ארם, והנה אין שם איש וכל אדם, כי אם הסוס אסור והחמור אסור, ואוהלים כאשר המה. ויקרא השוערים ויגידו בית המלך פנימה, ויקום המלך לילה, ויאמר אל עבדיו, אגידה נא לכם את אשר עשו לנו ארם, ידעו כי רעבים אנחנו. Lost my place for a second by looking up. ויצאו מן המחנה להיחווה בשדה לאמור, כי יצאו מן העיר ונתפסם חיים, ואל העיר נבוא. ויען אחד מעבדיו ויאמר, ויקחו נא 5 מן הסוסים הנשארים אשר נשארו והינם ככל המון ישראל אשר נשארו והינם ככל המון ישראל אשר תמו, ונשלחה ונראה. ויקחו 2 רכב סוסים, וישלח המלך אחרי. Lost my place again. Here we go. I'll do that again from Vayishlach. Vayishlach HaMelech Acharei Machane Aram Lemor Lechu Ureu Vayelchu Achareihem Ad HaYarden Vehine Chol HaDerech Melea Vegadim Vechelim אשר השליחו ארם בחופזם. וישובו המלכים וישובו המלכים ויגידו למלך. ויצא העם ויבוזו את מחנה ארם, ויהי שאה סולת בשקל, ו200 שעורים בשקל כדבר אדוני. והמלך הפקיד את השליש אשר נשען על ידו על השער, וירמסו העם בשער, וימות כאשר דיבר איש האלוהים asher diber beredet hamelech elav. Vayehi kedaber isha Elohim el hamelech lemor satayim sheorim beshekel usa'a solet beshekel יהיה כעת מחר בשער שומרון. ויען השליש את איש האלוהים ויאמר והנה אדוני עושה ערובות בשמיים היהיה כדבר הזה ויאמר הנך רואה בעיניך ומשם לא תאכל ויהי לו כן וירמסו אותו העם בשער Vayamot, and that leads you right into Baruch Ata, etc., for the blessings afterwards. Now, I'm going to make some notes and explain some things. First of all, I'm trying Go Live, which is a little bit different. I can't edit it afterwards, I don't think. And I thought, okay, I'll be brave, but then you see my mistakes. Of course, maybe you also see that I'm human and you can make mistakes too. It's okay, especially if you can correct them quickly. So, a couple of things I was thinking about explaining as I went through here. First of all, this is a great Haftarah to learn some of these trope system like aberrations and also some of the word combinations. So if you look at the verse Daled, and towards the end of it, you have Im Yichayunu Nichyeh, and then Ve'im Yimitunu Vamatnu, and it's just the beautiful poetry that the prophet used in combining the verbs, which is something that combining the roots, uses of the roots, which is something you don't see so much in other languages. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about is the common use of the common appearance in this Haftarah of both Gershayim, verse 6, and Tlishakatana, also in verse 6. So you have two Gershayims. I do Gershayim like this, up, down, up in Haftarah. Torah reading is da 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 da. That's Gershayim. But in Haftarah, I like it, the one that I picked up somewhere. I can't tell you where exactly right now. And then Tlishakatana, I picked up in Detroit this way. Da, 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 da. You just go up 3 steps and then back down again. 1, 2, 3, back down. Tlishakatana. When there's 2 of them, it's telling you that the accent should be at the first one. Aleinu. Now, again, you have lots of kamatz katans in this haftarah. So if you look at verse Zion, you have oholehem. It's pronounced that way, not ahalehem. And if you look at the verse chet, the 8th verse, again, you have tlishakatana. Here you should put the accent on the O before the U. So it really shouldn't be vayavo u. It really should be vayavo u. Let the U come at the end, almost like an afterthought. You have it again with a azla geresh in the middle of the line. Vayavo u. Right? The U is like an afterthought at the end. You have also several instances. I don't think this is the first one. In verse 9, in Tet, you have munach legarmeh, followed by munach revi'i. Only when that garmeh, that line in between the words chen and anachnu, appears with a munach and then a munach revi'i, is the garmeh chanted specially. So it's munach legarmeh is really how it should be chanted. On lo chen, lochein, and then munach rivi'i. I have explained before that munach is the magical trope. There are some other trope that also change depending on their situation, but munach changes all the time. And so now let's look at the next, at the same verse. Sometimes you get a rivi'i out of nowhere. So I'm sorry, a tavir out of nowhere. So if you look after the word machshim in verse 9, sort of the middle of the verse, you have all of a sudden vechikinu. So you do vanachnu machshim first, and then vechikinu. If you find that difficult, do the darga in your head first. Vanachnu machshim darga. And eventually you won't have to do it. But who cares if you take a second and do that in your head, or even if it comes out loud, it's not the end of the world. And then you have the word avon. Now, I don't know what text you're using. I'm using Katav, the same plates that were used to make those little booklets that everybody had years and years ago. I find the print to be the best, and I like it. It spells avon with two vavs, and that is very considerate, because then you know to say avon. You're not always going to see it that way. Avon is very often placed with only one vav, and you just have to know. And being that avon means sin, you can just know it's a real sin to mispronounce that. And it's not, it happens a lot in prayer, that word, and in Torah and in Haftarah. So get it down that you know that avon is avon, and it's a sin to say it any other way. All right, so moving on, another thing I wanted to point out, you have another kamatz katan at the beginning of 12, vayakom. Make sure to accent the syllable that does not have the kamatz katan, because that's the definition of a kamatz katan, is that it's an unaccented syllable, or part of its definition. So it really should be vayakom hamelech, not vayakom hamelech, vayakom. Go on now. Let's see. The next thing I wanted to point out, amapike. You have in verse 13, first of all, you have another tlisha katana on vaya, on, again, the second vowel, the second patach should be pronounced sort of like an afterthought. But then I really wanted to point out that you have a lot of, you have two zarkaz in a row here, and followed by the munach segol. And at that at the segol, you have a mapik hey. Mapik means a dot inside a letter, inside the letter hey, which is possessive feminine. But more importantly, I'm pointing it out because you might have heard a little bit of a on the recording. If it didn't come out, it was intended, but it doesn't always come out, and sometimes it comes out too hard, so I'm careful not to make it too demonstrative, but it really should be nish aruva, a little bit of a h at the end to make a difference. If you can manage that, it's not the most important thing to focus on, though, if you're just starting to learn. What else I wanted to point out? Well, in verse 15, it is at the very end, last three words, you have last four words, vayashuvu hamalachim vayagidu lamelech. Well, here is a real nice way for me to point out that these are similar sounding words, but a very different root. So here you have hamalachim, the angels, right? Notice that there's an extra aleph in there. It is not kingship that it's talking about here, or anything to do with the root for king, like the last word, la melech, unto the king. That is the word for king. So I corrected myself when I said hamilachim. It could be kind of misunderstood. I wanted to make sure to say it the way that it's written, hamalachim. And if you really want to be demonstrative of the pronunciation, it should have a in the middle, hamalachim, to make a real difference between the root for kingship and the way any conjugation of mem, lamed, chaf, or chaf sofit in this case, would be pronounced. On the next verse 17, towards the end again, you have two munach zakif katons in a row. So Isha Elohim Asher Diber. It's really easy because you get used to hearing Merchatibcha after Munach Sakev Katon, that you might not be doing this correctly. Isha Elohim Asher Diber. Just keep practicing doing 2 Munach Sakev Katons in a row, and you won't have any trouble. Very last penultimate, let's use that fancy word, the penultimate phrase, because the last phrase is Basha'ar Vayamot, but the penultimate is Vayirmasu Oto Ha'am. I hesitated there and I had to redo it. And the reason is because that's not a pashta on Vayirmasu, it's a kadma. Kadma doesn't always come with an azla. And this time, it's not a pashta, and I should have picked it up quicker because it's Vayir Mesu. Oh, the kadma, the trope, is not on the last letter, and it must be to be a pasha. It's on the samech, but it's awfully close. So I'll let myself off the hook there. And when you have a kadma followed by a mercha tivir, that's another example where it doesn't change all the time like a munach, but a mercha before tivir gets the outside notes of dargah. How is dargah before tivir? Dargah tivir. By the way, these principles are the same in Torah. Dargah tivir. Leave out the middle notes, and you've got mercha tivir. Mercha tivir. When a kadma comes right before, it kind of makes it one flowing, nice sound. Kadma darga, or kadma in this case, mercha tivir. And it wouldn't be right if I didn't say behatzlacha in English. Good luck.